The galaxy had grown silent in the spaces between the stars, but it was not a peaceful silence. War had stretched across systems like a dark shadow, and countless worlds bore the scars of battles they could not have imagined. Among the conquered, whispers of hope and rebellion were almost impossible to hear. Yet on one small, forgotten colony at the edge of the human-settled quadrant, a faint spark burned. That spark was Captain Elias Wren. Elias stood at the edge of a plateau, looking out over the jagged landscape of his homeworld. The colony was small and primitive by galactic standards, with its metal buildings weathered by constant storms and dust that seemed to cling to every surface. Yet the people here were survivors. They had built their homes from what the world gave them and had learned to endure conditions that would have destroyed most. Elias had grown up among them, learning not only to fight but to think, to observe, and to adapt. It was these qualities that had kept humanity alive, even as the alien empire spread like wildfire. For years, humanity had been considered weak. The alien empire, led by Empress Queen Zyra, looked at humans and saw fragile creatures, clever only in ways that did not matter in the grand scale of interstellar conquest. They had armies that could destroy entire planets, fleets that could travel faster than light, and technology humans could not begin to understand. Yet humans endured. They adapted, and Elias, though young, carried the weight of that endurance on his shoulders. The latest news had come from the outer systems. Zyra's forces were advancing, capturing worlds with terrifying efficiency. Entire colonies had fallen without a fight. Intelligence reports suggested the Empress herself was orchestrating campaigns across multiple sectors at once, a feat that few even among her generals could manage. Humanity's colonies were now in direct danger, and the Council of Earth, despite its best efforts, could only send limited support. The reality was grim, yet Elias had learned early in life that fear did not win wars. Action did. He turned to the small group gathered behind him, volunteers from various human colonies, hardened by hardship but driven by something stronger than fear, a stubborn refusal to surrender. There was Mara, a skilled technician whose hands could fix nearly any machine, Jadon, a scout whose speed and agility made him almost impossible to catch, and Leora, a young strategist whose plans had already saved several colonies from destruction. Each of them understood the stakes, yet none wavered. Elias drew strength from their determination. The plan they devised was daring, perhaps reckless, but it was the only chance humanity had. They would strike at the core of the alien command structure, not by brute force, but through precision and ingenuity. Elias' mind raced as he reviewed every detail. The human advantage had always been in unpredictability. Where aliens relied on overwhelming strength, humans used creativity and adaptability. They could turn even the most hopeless situation into an opportunity, and now they would need every ounce of that ingenuity to survive. That night, under the twin moons of their colony, Elias walked alone to the edge of the settlement. The winds howled, carrying the scent of dust and cold metal. He watched the stars, each one a distant sun with worlds orbiting it. Somewhere out there, the Empress's fleet was moving, a shadow of steel and fire. Yet he did not feel small. He had seen humans accomplish impossible things before, and he believed they could do it again. He remembered stories his grandfather had told him of early human explorers, people who had left Earth when it was still fragile and uncertain, traveling to new worlds with nothing but hope and determination. They had faced unknown dangers, harsh environments, and sometimes death itself. And yet they had survived, adapted, and thrived. Elias felt their legacy in his blood, and it strengthened him. Humanity's resilience was not just in their technology or weapons. It was in their minds, their hearts, and their willingness to fight for something greater than themselves. Morning arrived with a pale light that struggled to cut through the thick clouds. The colony came alive slowly, people moving to their tasks with quiet efficiency. Elias convened a briefing with his team. He spoke calmly, his voice steady, carrying the authority that came not from rank alone but from experience and trust. "We do not have the strength to face them head-on," he said, "but we do have intelligence, adaptability, and courage. That is something they cannot predict, and that is our weapon." Leora had developed contingency plans, multiple paths forward depending on what they encountered. Together, they represented humanity at its best, clever, adaptable, and determined to survive against impossible odds. As they prepared to leave the colony, Elias took a moment to observe his surroundings. Children played in the distance, unaware of the storm approaching their worlds. Farmers tended to their fields and artisans continued their work, creating beauty even in hardship. This was what they were fighting for, not glory, not conquest, but life itself. Humanity had endured countless trials, and they would endure this one as well. Their strength lay not just in their weapons, but in their spirit. The shuttle lifted off quietly, a speck against the swirling clouds, heading toward the edge of the system where the alien fleet had been reported. The journey was tense, each moment filled with the weight of possibility. Elias reflected on the enormity of the task before them. If they failed, countless worlds could fall. But he also knew that failure was not an option, not when humanity's survival was at stake. They would find a way, as humans always did. Upon reaching the outskirts of the fleet, Elias observed the sheer scale of the alien armada. Ships of unimaginable size and power moved in coordinated precision. The fleet's presence was overwhelming, designed to intimidate and crush any resistance. Yet as he watched, he noticed subtle patterns, small deviations in movement, moments of pause, minor errors in coordination. These were opportunities, the tiny imperfections that humans could exploit with cleverness and audacity. He gathered his team and laid out the approach. "We cannot fight them in the open," he said, "but we can move through the gaps they leave. We will infiltrate their flagship, gather intelligence, and send a message that they cannot ignore. If we can reach the Queen, even one conversation could change the course of this war. That is our goal." Every decision mattered. Every maneuver could mean the difference between life and death. Yet he felt no fear, only the clarity of purpose. Humanity's future, fragile though it seemed, depended on courage, intelligence, and determination. As they approached the flagship, the enormity of the task became clear. This was the heart of the Empire, the seat of power from which countless worlds had been brought under control. Yet Elias did not hesitate. He had faced impossible odds before and had learned that fear could not dictate action. The human mind, with its ability to adapt and improvise, was their greatest weapon, and he intended to use it fully. The shuttle docked with careful precision, and Elias led his team into the alien vessel. The interior was vast, gleaming with alien technology, corridors stretching in ways that defied human architecture. Yet humans had always found ways to navigate the unknown. With Mara scanning for sensors, Jadden leading with agility, and Leora monitoring communication channels, they moved like shadows, unseen and unpredictable. Every step brought them closer to the Queen, every corner a reminder of the power they faced. Yet Elias did not waver. Humans had survived because they faced the unknown with intelligence and courage. They adapted when others relied solely on strength. This was another trial, another challenge that humanity would overcome. As they moved deeper, Elias thought of the billions of humans who had not been able to escape the Empire's grasp. He carried their hopes and their will with him. He thought of the children, the farmers, the workers, ordinary people whose lives mattered immensely. If he could reach the Queen and show her the value of humanity, perhaps she would see what so many others had failed to notice. Humans were not just creatures to conquer. They were a force shaped by resilience, creativity, and moral strength. The first part of their mission had succeeded. They were inside the flagship. Yet Elias knew this was only the beginning. The real challenge lay ahead. But he also knew something profound. Humans were capable of the impossible because they refused to be defined by limits others placed on them. And as he led his team through the alien halls, he felt the unspoken truth that had always guided humanity. Survival was not about power alone, but about heart, mind, and spirit. And in that combination, humans were unmatched. The shuttle had carried them from the safety of their home to the heart of enemy territory, and now the real test would begin. Elias and his team were small, fragile by comparison, yet they were armed with something the aliens could not predict, and that was enough. For humanity had always survived not because it was the strongest, but because it never gave up, never stopped thinking, and never lost hope. And that hope, Elias knew, could change the fate of the stars. The interior of the alien flagship was a labyrinth of metal corridors, glowing panels, and soft hums of machinery that seemed alive. For most beings, walking these halls would have been intimidating. For Elias Wren and his team, it was a challenge, a puzzle waiting to be solved. Every step had to be precise. Every corner could hide a patrol, a trap, or a sensor capable of alerting the entire fleet. Yet Elias moved with calm determination, his mind focusing on patterns, gaps, and possibilities. This was what humans excelled at, turning complexity into opportunity. Mara led the way, her hands occasionally touching panels to scan for hidden devices. Each beep or flicker revealed more of the ship's internal systems, allowing the team to anticipate the movements of alien guards and drones. Jadden moved silently beside her, almost blending into the shadows, ready to intercept or disable anything that threatened their progress. Leora trailed slightly behind, monitoring communications and recording the layout as they advanced. Together, they were a small, efficient unit, human ingenuity condensed into a single, determined force. As they moved deeper, the corridors opened into a massive chamber, filled with ships, operational consoles, holographic maps of conquered systems, and alien officers moving with disciplined precision. Elias crouched behind a support beam, observing the flow of activity. The aliens operated like clockwork, yet even machines have patterns, and humans had learned to exploit them. He noted the timing of patrols, the shifts in lighting, and the brief pauses when officers communicated across the room. Every observation added to their advantage. "This way," Elias whispered, leading them through a narrow maintenance tunnel that ran along the outer hull. The tunnel was barely wide enough for them to move single file, and the walls were cold metal that transmitted every sound. Elias forced himself to breathe evenly, aware that one mistake could be fatal. Still, he felt a quiet thrill. Humans were never meant to be predictable. That unpredictability was now their shield. Hours passed in careful navigation, punctuated by moments of tension when a guard came too close or a drone scanned their path. Each time, the team used patience and quick thinking to evade detection. Mara's knowledge of alien technology proved invaluable, as she was able to disable sensors temporarily and create false signals to mislead their enemies. Leora's calculations allowed them to choose paths that avoided detection almost completely, and Jadden's agility and reflexes turned near disasters into minor delays. They were humans at their finest, clever, adaptive, and willing to risk everything to survive. Finally, they reached the heart of the ship, the central control area. From here, they could see the Queen's chambers on a holographic display. Elias studied it carefully. Security would be intense, far beyond what they had seen so far. Guards, drones, automated defenses, all designed to stop intruders. Yet he noticed something the aliens had overlooked. The Queen did not rely solely on brute force. Her own behavior had patterns, routines that could be predicted. She trusted her officers and her systems to a fault, leaving small openings for anyone clever enough to notice. "This is it," Elias said softly, addressing his team. "We are close. Stay focused. One wrong move now and we're done." But one right move could change everything. The shield flickered just long enough for them to slip through. Inside, the Queen's chambers were nothing like the cold efficiency of the rest of the ship. The space was grand, decorated with alien art, and filled with light that seemed softer than the harsh illumination of the corridors. The Empress herself stood near a large window overlooking the stars. She was taller than most humans, with an aura of authority that could freeze a man in place. Yet Elias noticed the subtle signs of doubt in her posture, the slight slump of a shoulder, the way she glanced away from the window occasionally, as if distracted by thoughts no one else could understand. Elias took a deep breath. This was the moment humanity had been preparing for. He stepped forward, hands raised not in surrender but in a gesture of peace. The Queen's attention snapped to him, eyes narrowing. Alien guards tensed, their weapons trained, but Elias spoke calmly, letting the weight of his words carry the authority that strength alone could not provide. "You have conquered countless worlds," he began. "You have destroyed civilizations, yet here I stand, human, alive, unbroken. You may see us as weak, but that is your mistake. We endure because we adapt. We survive because we think. We fight not for glory, but for life itself. And that is something your machines, your fleets, and even your strategy cannot fully grasp." Elias continued, letting his words paint a picture of humanity's struggles, their creativity, and their resilience. He spoke of ordinary people, farmers, artisans, children, workers, whose lives mattered as much as entire worlds. He spoke not as a soldier demanding mercy, but as a witness to the value of life, of freedom, of possibility. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. The guards remained tense, but the Queen did not order them to attack. Her eyes remained fixed on Elias, curiosity breaking through the wall of authority she had built over decades. Elias saw it, the tiniest crack in the armor of certainty, the moment when reason began to outweigh habit. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Victory is meaningless if it destroys everything you claim to protect. There is another way. There is a way to end this without endless death. I do not ask for your mercy, I ask for your judgment. Consider what it means to be a ruler, to wield power, to be responsible for countless lives. That is a burden humans understand. And we can show you how to bear it. For a long moment she said nothing. Then, almost in a whisper, she spoke, her voice carrying both authority and uncertainty. You are bold, human, perhaps too bold, yet there is something in your words I cannot ignore. I will consider what you say. It came from understanding, from challenging assumptions, from proving that even the smallest beings could shape the course of history. Humans had done it before, and they could do it again. The team slowly retreated, moving back through the corridors with the same precision and caution as before. Every step had to be measured, every sound controlled. Yet Elias felt a lightness he had not known in months, the hope that perhaps, just perhaps, their mission could succeed. As they returned to their shuttle, the enormity of the galaxy stretched before them. Billions of stars, countless worlds, and infinite possibilities awaited. The aliens were powerful, their fleets unmatched in size and technology. Yet Elias knew something they could never understand fully, the human spirit. Humans could think, adapt, and endure in ways the alien empire could not predict. That was their true weapon, their unbreakable strength. Back on the shuttle, Mara worked to plot a safe course out of the flagship's perimeter. Jadden kept watch, his eyes sharp for any sign of pursuit. Leora monitored communications, ready to detect any signals that might indicate the Queen's next move. And Elias sat quietly, reflecting on what had just occurred. They had achieved something incredible, not victory but connection, not conquest but understanding. And in that connection lay the seeds of change. For humanity, survival had always been about more than strength or firepower. It had been about courage, creativity, and the ability to see beyond the immediate danger to the larger picture. Elias had demonstrated that humans were more than a species to be conquered. They were a force capable of shaping destinies. And he knew that this first step, whispering truth into the ear of the most powerful being in the galaxy, could change everything. As the shuttle moved away from the flagship, the stars stretched like ribbons of light before them. The team had succeeded in reaching the Queen, had delivered their message, and had lived to tell the story. But the real journey was just beginning. There would be consequences, challenges, and resistance. Yet Elias felt a certainty he had never known before. Humanity had shown its strength in a way no alien could have predicted. They had demonstrated that courage and intelligence could match any fleet, any empire, any ruler. And in the vast emptiness of space, where war and silence intertwined, a single truth shone brighter than any star. Humans were capable of the impossible. They adapted. They endured, they thought. And now they had planted a seed of change in the heart of the most powerful empire the galaxy had ever known. Elias closed his eyes for a moment, letting the hum of the shuttle's engines soothe him. He thought of the worlds depending on humanity, of the lives that hung in the balance. And he smiled quietly to himself. They were not helpless, they were human. And being human was enough. The human team had returned to their shuttle, hearts still racing from the encounter with Queen Zyra. The corridors of the flagship now seemed less threatening, though danger was never far. Every step back toward safety reminded Elias that the galaxy was full of uncertainty. The Queen's reaction had been unexpected, her hesitation, the slight doubt in her eyes, but it had been enough to give humanity a foothold. One conversation had shifted the balance in a way no weapon ever could. Yet, Elias knew the real challenge was just beginning. The alien empire was vast, and even if the Queen reconsidered the war, her generals and officers might not. Some would push forward, ignoring her hesitation, while others might interpret the humans' presence as an act of defiance. Every move had to be calculated, every plan flexible. Human ingenuity would be tested, not just in stealth and courage, but in strategy and persuasion. The shuttle hummed softly as it moved away from the flagship. Mara monitored the ship's systems, ensuring that the modifications she had made held steady. Jadden's sharp eyes scanned the stars for patrols, while Leora tapped rapidly at the communication console, intercepting and decoding signals from the alien fleet. Elias leaned back in his seat, thinking through every scenario. They had made contact with the Queen, but now they needed to ensure that their message reached beyond her ears to the Empire itself. "This is just the beginning," Elias said quietly. "We've proven we can reach the heart of the Empire. Now we need to make sure what we've done matters. Now we need to make sure they walk through it the right way. We need proof of what humans can do, proof that we are more than just a minor species to crush. That's something no fleet can ignore." Elias had spent years learning to spot those gaps, and now every observation became a weapon. As they approached a dense cluster of cruisers, a warning beep sounded. Mara's eyes widened. Sensors are picking up a squadron moving fast toward our position. They must have detected anomalies. They're coming for us. We need a plan. Follow my lead. Jadden used thrusters to maneuver sharply around obstacles, keeping the craft on course. Leora calculated trajectories and predicted enemy movements, giving Elias the information he needed to stay ahead. The chase was intense, every second a test of skill and precision. One mistake could destroy them all. Yet the human team moved as one, each member contributing their unique talents. They were small in the vastness of space, fragile against the alien fleet, yet unmatched in creativity and adaptability. Every move was a demonstration of the human mind's power to solve problems under pressure, something no alien system could fully anticipate. After tense moments that felt like hours, the shuttle emerged from the asteroid field, undetected and unscathed. The pursuing ships had lost formation, some colliding with debris, others forced to retreat. Elias exhaled slowly, letting the tension drain from his body. They had survived not through brute force, but through observation, strategy, and unity. Humanity had turned a near-impossible situation into a victory of ingenuity. Every fleet has a pattern, Elias said, and every pattern has a weakness. Humans see those weaknesses because we think differently. That is our strength. It was small, remote, and largely ignored by the aliens, a perfect place to regroup and plan the next move. As they traveled, he briefed the team on their strategy. They would gather intelligence on alien fleets, intercept communications, and find more opportunities to demonstrate human capability. Each success would add weight to their message. Humanity was not to be underestimated. When they arrived, the team was welcomed by colony leaders who had heard of their daring mission. The people were exhausted from years of fear and oppression, yet the return of Elias and his team brought hope. For the first time in decades, humans had shown that even the mightiest enemy could be approached with courage and intelligence. Elias addressed the gathered leaders. "We have touched the heart of the Empire," he said. "We have spoken to the Queen, but we must continue. Humans have survived because we think, adapt, and endure. We will not fight mindlessly, nor will we surrender. Our path is to show our strength in ways the enemy cannot predict. That is how we protect our worlds, our people, and our future." They had grown tired of despair, of watching their children live under the shadow of conquest. Elias' words reminded them of something they had almost forgotten, the unique power of humanity. Humans survived not because they were the strongest, but because they were clever, courageous, and unyielding. Over the next days, Elias' team worked tirelessly. Mara refined technology to enhance stealth capabilities. Jadden trained local scouts in observation, agility, and improvisation. Leora coordinated communications and monitored alien transmissions. Each small success reinforced a growing truth. Humans were capable of feats that no one expected. They were creating an invisible web of resistance, a network that could shift the balance of power without firing a single shot. One evening, as the twin suns of the system set, Elias stood alone, gazing at the sky. He thought of the countless humans under alien control, of worlds that had fallen, and of the ones yet to be conquered. And yet he felt something he had not felt in a long time, hope, not just personal hope, but the hope of an entire species. Humanity had survived famine, plague, wars, and natural disasters. They had endured and evolved. Now they were facing an enemy that seemed invincible, yet even here in the darkest reaches of space, their ingenuity could shine. Mara joined him silently, watching the horizon. "Do you think the Queen will listen?" she asked. Elias did not answer immediately. He had learned that change did not come easily, even for the most powerful. But he had also learned that humans had a quality that no empire could crush: persistence. "She is listening," he said finally, "and that is enough. One mind, one decision can ripple through an entire empire. We just need to give her reason to choose differently. And humans never give up." Commands are being delayed, patrols are shifting. Someone is reconsidering the approach. I think it might be her. The seeds of change had been planted, and humans had proven their worth not through force alone, but through courage, intelligence, and the ability to act where others saw only impossibility. That night, the team sat together, sharing stories of human ingenuity and survival. They spoke of past battles, of clever tactics, of moments when humans had overcome impossible odds. Each story reinforced the same lesson. Their strength lay not in their weapons, but in their minds and their hearts. Humanity had endured for thousands of years because they refused to surrender to circumstances. And now, in the heart of the alien empire, they were proving that once again. As the twin suns disappeared below the horizon, Elias stood, looking out at the stars. Each one was a world, a possibility, a chance to protect life and show that humans could rise above fear. The journey ahead would be dangerous, full of uncertainty and challenge. Yet Elias felt the same certainty that had guided humanity for generations. They would adapt, they would endure, they would overcome. And in doing so, they would prove to the galaxy that even the smallest, seemingly weakest species could alter the course of civilizations. The mission had begun with a whisper, a single conversation in the Queen's chambers. Now it was growing into a movement, a testament to human courage, creativity, and resilience. And Elias knew that no matter what came next, humanity would face it as they always had, together, unbroken and unstoppable. The days that followed were tense, filled with uncertainty and careful planning. Elias and his team had returned to a small, hidden human base, but their mission was far from over. They had spoken to the Queen, planted the seed of doubt in her mind, and survived against impossible odds, but the galaxy was still a dangerous place. Alien fleets moved relentlessly, and though some shifts in their operations were noticeable, there was no guarantee that the Queen's hesitation would stop the war entirely. Elias gathered his team in the strategy room. The walls were lined with maps of star systems, colonies, and fleet movements. Holographic displays flickered, showing live updates from human scouts and intelligence operatives scattered across the galaxy. Mara, Jaden, and Leora each took their positions, ready to work as a single unit with precision and focus. "We've done the impossible so far," Elias said, his voice calm but firm. "We've reached the Queen and survived. But now we must ensure that our presence, our actions, and our intelligence have an effect. We need to show not just her, but the entire empire that humans cannot be underestimated. They don't fully trust their own fleet formations anymore. Small deviations are causing confusion. That will prove to the Queen that humans are unpredictable, capable of affecting outcomes in ways they don't expect. We can turn every defense into a lesson for the aliens, showing that humans fight smarter, not just harder." The team prepared the shuttle for a series of missions. Each sortie would be small, precise, and high-risk, targeting alien operations in ways that minimized destruction but maximized impact. The goal was not revenge or conquest, but demonstration, proof that humans were clever, resourceful, and capable of influencing outcomes in ways the alien empire could not anticipate. As the first mission commenced, Elias guided the shuttle through the vast emptiness of space. The target was a supply convoy en route to a recently conquered human colony. The aliens had considered it insignificant, believing humans could not threaten even the smallest of their operations. But Elias knew better. Observation and precision were humanity's greatest weapons, and he intended to wield them fully. The convoy appeared on the sensors, a formation of sleek transports escorted by patrol cruisers. Elias studied their movements carefully. Each ship moved in predictable patterns, but there were slight gaps in coordination. Mara adjusted the shuttle's stealth field, ensuring they remained undetected. Jaden plotted an intercept course that would allow them to manipulate the convoy's route, while Leora calculated the timing down to the second. "Ready," Elias whispered. The shuttle moved like a shadow, silent and unseen, slipping between patrols and weaving past sensors. They reached the convoy, and with precise maneuvering, Elias used the shuttle's systems to create minor anomalies, false signals, minor course adjustments, and sensor disturbances that caused confusion among the alien ships. The convoy slowed, formations faltered, and patrols scrambled to respond. In less than 10 minutes, the humans had disrupted an operation that the aliens considered routine. The transports remained intact, but the message was clear. Humans were capable of influencing events beyond what the Empire expected. Back at the hidden base, the team watched communications intercepts carefully. Reports indicated that the Queen had noticed the disruption. She had called for explanations, questioning her generals and observing their responses. The cracks in the Empire's certainty were widening, and humans were at the center of it. Elias allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. This was exactly the effect they had hoped for. The mission had been dangerous, but it had worked. The Queen's hesitation was becoming more pronounced, and the generals were starting to doubt the infallibility of their strategy. Humans, small and underestimated, were shaping the behavior of the most powerful fleet in the galaxy, not through force alone, but through intelligence, timing, and ingenuity. The next mission was even riskier. Several outlying colonies were under threat, with patrols moving quickly to suppress resistance. Elias, Mara, Jaden, and Leora prepared for simultaneous operations, splitting their efforts to maximize impact. They coordinated with human operatives on the ground, using coded signals and clever misdirection to guide enemy movements. As the shuttle approached one of the targeted colonies, Elias reviewed the plan. They would disable communication relays temporarily, forcing alien forces to respond manually. This would create delays and confusion, giving human defenders a chance to fortify positions and escape if necessary. Every action was calculated to show human strategic thinking, not to cause unnecessary destruction. The operation unfolded perfectly. Alien patrols scrambled, responding to false signals and delayed communications. The colony remained intact, and humans on the ground adapted quickly, turning potential disaster into opportunity. Elias watched the results with pride. Each successful maneuver reinforced the same truth. Humans were clever, adaptable, and unpredictable. That was a strength no empire could fully control. As the shuttle returned to the hidden base, Elias briefed the team on the next phase. "The Queen is watching," he said. "We've shown her what humans can do. Now we need to reinforce that impression. We must continue to act, demonstrating intelligence, courage, and adaptability. Every move we make shapes her perception and creates a path for peace. We've proven capability, but what about motivation? The Queen needs to see that humans are not just reacting, but thinking, planning, and taking the initiative. That is what the Queen must see." Humans thrived in the face of danger, finding solutions where others saw only obstacles. That had been true throughout history, and it was true now. Every risk had been considered, every contingency planned, every advantage exploited. The shuttle approached the station under the cover of darkness, maneuvering silently through asteroid fields and patrol routes. Sensors flickered with data, showing minor inconsistencies that humans could exploit. Elias led the team through a sequence of actions designed to confuse and misdirect the station's defenders. Mara disabled key systems temporarily. Jaden guided the shuttle with flawless precision, and Leora coordinated communications to anticipate enemy reactions. Inside the station, human operatives on the ground executed their own plans, moving quietly to disable non-essential systems and create further confusion. The alien forces, though powerful, could not predict the humans' methods. For the first time, they were reacting to a species that did not follow their expectations, and the result was chaos controlled by intelligence and strategy. As the mission concluded, the team returned to the shuttle exhilarated but focused. They had achieved more than just tactical success. They had proven the principle: humans could shape events in ways the aliens did not understand. And somewhere in the flagship, the Queen was witnessing it. Reports indicated that she had taken notice. Her generals struggled to explain the anomalies while her own doubts grew. Humans had done what no one else could: survive, adapt, and influence the course of events through courage and intellect rather than sheer power. Back at the hidden base, Elias addressed his team. "We have made our mark," he said, "not through force, but through thought, observation, and action. Humans are capable of extraordinary things because we do not accept limits imposed by others. We adapt. We endure. We overcome. That is the message the Queen will carry forward." Humanity's greatest weapon was not its ships or weapons. It was the spirit of the people who refused to be conquered, who used intelligence, strategy, and morality to shape their fate. As night fell on the hidden colony, Elias stood alone on a balcony overlooking the stars. The galaxy stretched endlessly before him, filled with danger, opportunity, and uncertainty. Yet he felt a quiet confidence. Humans had survived countless trials, adapted to impossible circumstances, and overcome overwhelming odds. Now, in the heart of the most powerful empire in the galaxy, they were proving it once again. The Queen's hesitation, the general's confusion, the disruption of fleets and operations, all were signs that humans were making a difference. The war might continue, but the tide was shifting. Elias knew that the coming days would bring greater challenges, but he also knew something fundamental. Humans were not merely surviving, they were shaping the future, one calculated, courageous action at a time. And in that knowledge, Elias felt the quiet thrill of triumph. Humanity, small and underestimated, was changing the course of the galaxy. Through intelligence, adaptability, and courage, they were proving that no empire, no matter how vast, could predict or control the spirit of a determined human being. The stars glittered beyond the horizon, each one a world waiting to be defended, protected, and inspired. Elias smiled, ready for the next step. Humans would not falter, they would endure. They would continue to act, think, and influence events in ways the aliens could never predict. And one day, that influence would grow so strong that even the Queen herself would be compelled to see the truth. Humans were extraordinary, capable of shaping destinies and ending wars through wisdom, courage, and heart. The human team had reached a point that few could have imagined. After countless missions, risky maneuvers, and daring feats of intelligence, they had proven that humans could affect the galaxy in ways the alien empire had never anticipated. Yet the ultimate challenge remained, persuading the Queen to take decisive action that could stop the war and save countless lives. Elias Wren understood the stakes. One conversation, one choice could alter the fate of billions. The shuttle drifted quietly toward the flagship once more, smaller than the massive alien ships surrounding it, yet carrying a weight far greater than its size suggested. The team had prepared meticulously. Every communication had been monitored, every fleet movement analyzed, and every possible contingency anticipated. They were humans at their best, clever, adaptable, and courageous, and they were ready to use that to reach the heart of the Empire. As they approached, Elias briefed his team one last time. "This is it," he said. "Everything we've done leads to this moment. We've shown her what humans are capable of. Now we must ensure she acts on it. Our goal is not to defeat her by force, but to awaken understanding, empathy, and reason. That is humanity's true power. We go straight to the Queen." Now that same determination would be their guiding force. The shuttle docked with the flagship in a silent maneuver, almost invisible against the vast backdrop of space. Elias led his team through the corridors, past security systems and patrols, moving like shadows. Every step was calculated, every breath measured. They had done this before, yet the tension felt heavier than ever. Failure was no longer an option. Finally, they reached the Queen's chambers. The door, massive and reinforced, seemed imposing even after their previous missions. Elias approached calmly, using the same methods to bypass the security system. A moment later, the doors opened silently, revealing the interior. Queen Zyra stood near the large window, the stars reflected in her eyes. Her presence was imposing, yet Elias noticed the subtle signs of contemplation. She had seen the disruptions, observed the clever tactics, and noted the humans' resilience. Something had shifted in her understanding. Elias stepped forward, not with weapons, but with purpose. "Your Majesty," he said, voice calm but strong, "we are here not to fight, but to show you what humanity can achieve. We are small, yes, but we think, adapt, and endure. We have survived when all seemed lost because we refused to surrender to limits others place upon us. And now, we ask you to see us for what we truly are." Elias continued, speaking of humanity's struggles and triumphs, their creativity, courage, and ability to endure hardship. He spoke not of vengeance, not of fear, but of understanding, revealing that humans were capable of reason, morality, and wisdom beyond mere survival. "The war has taken countless lives," he said, "but victory without life is meaningless. You have power to decide to change the course of countless worlds. We do not ask for mercy, we ask for reason. Consider the lives under your control. Consider the possibility that strength alone does not define greatness. True power is in the ability to protect, to understand, and to choose wisely." The words struck her in ways no strategy, no calculation, and no display of force ever could. She had conquered countless worlds, yet here was a human, small and unarmed, holding her attention not through fear or dominance, but through clarity, courage, and insight. Silence hung in the chamber as the Queen turned, walking slowly to the observation window. "You speak with conviction," she said softly, "and you do so without threat, without fear. Humans, you are unlike any species I have encountered. That is the strength of humanity." Each action had demonstrated something undeniable. Humans were more than prey. They were a force that could shape events in ways the Empire could not predict. Her voice was quiet, yet carried the weight of authority. "Stop the war," she commanded. The words were simple, but they resonated across the galaxy, halting fleets, redirecting patrols, and forcing generals to reconsider their strategies. Elias felt a surge of relief, yet he did not celebrate. The Queen's order was just the beginning. They needed to ensure it was carried out, that human ingenuity and courage were recognized and respected. Your choice will save countless lives, he said. It will show that understanding and reason can triumph over destruction. Alien fleets paused, orders were reconsidered, and communications reflected the sudden halt of hostilities. Across countless systems, humans watched as the threat that had hung over them for generations began to recede. For the first time in decades, there was hope. Elias and his team returned to their shuttle, observing the galaxy with cautious optimism. Mara, Jaden, and Leora shared quiet smiles. They had achieved something extraordinary, not through force, but through intelligence, courage, and moral clarity. Humanity had not only survived, it had influenced the decisions of the most powerful empire in the galaxy. Back at the hidden human base, the news spread quickly. Colonies that had feared annihilation celebrated as the word of the ceasefire reached them. Humans across systems looked to the stars, realizing that their species had made a difference not through sheer strength, but through ingenuity, perseverance, and the refusal to be underestimated. Elias gathered the team one last time, standing beneath the stars that stretched endlessly across the sky. "We have done what few could imagine," he said. "We have shown the galaxy that humans are not weak. We are clever, we are courageous, and we endure. The Queen's choice proves it. But more importantly, it proves what we always knew. Humanity's greatest strength lies not in weapons or numbers, but in our mind, our heart, and our spirit. We've proven that thinking differently matters. That being human is enough to change the course of events. Not just the Queen, but every empire, every observer, every species that underestimated us. Humanity had demonstrated its true power, the ability to shape events, influence decisions, and protect life through thought, morality, and resilience. The galaxy was far from perfect, and challenges remained, but for the first time in generations, humans could look forward with hope rather than fear. They had reminded themselves and the galaxy that even a small species could change the course of empires when guided by intelligence, courage, and heart. Elias turned to his team. "This is only the beginning. Humanity has shown its strength, but we must continue to protect, to guide, and to endure. That is what makes us human, and that is what will ensure our survival for generations to come." As they prepared to return to their colonies, Elias felt the quiet pride that comes from knowing that one species, small and underestimated, had changed the fate of countless lives. Humans had survived because they adapted, endured, and acted with wisdom. And now they had proven to the galaxy that even in the face of overwhelming power, humanity could influence history, save lives, and shape the future. The stars stretched endlessly before them, and Elias knew that humanity's journey was just beginning. They would continue to explore, to learn, to fight when necessary, and to endure. But most importantly, they would continue to demonstrate the truth that had guided them throughout history. Being human was enough to change the course of the galaxy. And somewhere, across the stars, the Queen remembered the human soldier who had whispered in her ear. His words had altered the path of empires, stopped a war, and reminded even the most powerful ruler that strength alone was not the measure of greatness. Humanity had prevailed, not through domination, but through courage, intelligence, and heart. And that triumph, quiet though it was, resonated across the galaxy, a testament to the unyielding spirit of humankind. The human soldier, Captain Elias Wren, stood among his team, looking out at the stars, knowing that this was their victory. Not of firepower, not of conquest, but of ingenuity, morality, and the enduring power of being human. And in that truth lay the promise of a brighter future, one in which humanity could shape its destiny, protect its people, and inspire the galaxy with the strength of its spirit.